Hello and welcome to Business Reporter's The Future of Retail campaign. Over the past few years, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, the volume of online shopping has grown massively, and online marketplaces have allowed more and more businesses to enter the global market. But at the same time, the volume of free returns has also skyrocketed, and there is no sign of consumers giving up on their convenient return options anytime soon. How can brands and e-commerce businesses process return items in a cost-efficient and sustainable way? This is what we're going to discuss today with our guests from Cycleon, Jelle Schoenmaker in Utrecht and Joseph Valentine in New York. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Free delivery and returns have been standard features of the e-commerce offering for years. So what key challenges do they pose for retailers?
Yeah, so one of the things in returns management, you can't fully control it as a brand and a retailer. You ship items, but you can't fully control if items can be shipped back. And of course, typically returns come back in a time you don't want it, right? They come back after Christmas. They come back after peak season. They come back after the Black Fridays of the world. And what do you do then with all those returns? So it's the sheer volume, it's the cost, it's the quality of all those returns and what you want to do with them, which is really challenging for big players out there, for any player in a way.
Yeah, free returns have become the industry standard, and consumers are now expecting them. For the smaller retailers, there's a loss that is associated with a free return. For the larger retailers that are offering that, there's a sustainability pressure in which they need to offer consumers a more greener, sustainable way.
Before we move on to a more detailed discussion, could you please give us a brief idea of what Cycleon is doing and the core benefits?
So Cycleon is delivering both the IT platform and the logistics platform to manage returns globally. We typically do that for e-commerce players, retail players, brands out there, and for service returns. The main things and the main values we deliver really are driving the customer experience up, taking care you have your cost under control, and thirdly, really drive, or let's say reduce the impact, the environmental impact of returns at three key values of Cycleon.
Now, you mentioned that you offer IT platforms. Retailers have different software solutions available to tackle returns. So why are they still struggling?
Retailers are still struggling because they have multiple solutions for their returns process. For example, they have customer service portals, they have logistical contracts that they have to manage, they have warehouses they have to manage, and also last mile or intercontinental shipments they have to manage. For Cycleon, we manage the entire process from the start of the consumer experience or touch point to the logistical contracts that we manage within over 100 within our network, over our return centers, which there are 30 plus globally, and then of course the intercontinental or international lanes, which there are thousands of within our network. That is being all brought to them under one umbrella. Hence why we're not really just a solution or a SaaS thought. We are a management company of returns management on a global level.
How does Cycleon's solution allow data-driven decision making?
So for example, if you would be ordering a pair of white socks and a pair of shoes online, all the data we typically already have as Cycleon in our systems while it's not even being returned yet. So that data can be utilized. For example, if you would like to return the shoes, why ship all the returns back to a warehouse? If the warehouse is full of those shoes, maybe it's better to immediately ship them to an outlet store or give them to Goodwill. So the sooner you get the data into systems, the sooner you can make the decisions. You drive down that cost, you increase that sustainability we have been talking to before. So that's an example of what you could be doing with data very early in the process from different systems and different process steps in a way.
Okay, can you give us an idea of the cost savings that can be achieved if retailers optimize their returns?
Yeah, by optimizing returns management, a retailer can see cost savings in multiple verticals within the reverse flow. One could be as simple as reducing customer service inquiries by being able to offer a more robust returns portal that is able to create QR codes or labels that could be printed. So we're able to see cost savings on the logistics side. Additionally, we can drive down depreciation by being able to get the product in our facility in a more timely manner, receive it, inspect it, grade it, and get that back out into resale. What we're seeing globally is that 0.05% a product can depreciate daily. Given a week or 2 weeks of lag time between receipt, inspect, and grade, there's a significant cost savings associated with that.
Can you give us an example of what kind of cost cutting we're talking about?
So if we talk about cost, maybe it's best to take the process of return. So typically what you see, the process of return starts with returns avoidance. So can you utilize data to take care an item is not returned? Maybe you shouldn't be shipping some items or selling some items to specific markets. And of course, avoiding a return is the biggest saving you can have. If you really look at the customer experience side of things, the customer interaction, taking care that people can do more online, taking care you don't call a call center and you don't need to chat with people online. There we typically see savings of 50%. After the customer experience, after the customer interaction, you could say you have the logistics side. So by offering more economical return solutions, by taking care there's more consolidation, again, you talk about maybe $1 or €1 saving per unit. By having the right data available around the product, maybe around the consumer, you can already make decisions and do specific more activities in return centers. So by having the data, you don't need to figure out the data in a warehouse. So utilizing the data, you also can optimize your warehouse cost.
Now, in terms of sustainability, how do you help make returns management greener?
We help returns management become more sustainable and greener by a few different aspects. One is offering a more localized return center to the consumer base, so that can actually reduce the carbon footprint of that individual parcel, as well as the last mile. Most of our suppliers are compliant with our regulations, and there's some and most that use a hybrid model of autonomous pickups, bicycle carriers, and drop-off locations.
How do adjustments for sustainability impact on the consumer experience? I mean, are demanding customers happy to put up with those impacts?
So let me start with the second part of it. So we did a survey at Cycleon a couple of months ago, where there were roughly 4,000 respondents filled in the survey in 12 countries. So there were a couple of questions around sustainability, and let me focus a bit on those two at the moment. So one of the questions was, are you willing to wait longer for your refund if we would be applying a more sustainable return solution? And 75 of the respondents said yes. So they're happy to wait longer before they get their money back when there's a more sustainable supply chain taken to return those units back to, let's say, a warehouse. So that was one big finding we found. Secondly, we also asked the people, okay, are you willing to pay for a more sustainable return solution instead of maybe a less sustainable return solution? And there the people also said yes. We're willing to pay. That roughly was 50% of the people responding. So generally you could say, yes, people are willing to pay. And I think so those numbers you cannot really ignore, right? 75% and 50% is quite a sheer size of that people out there, those consumers out there. Do people really need to compromise? I would say no. If you still give the right solutions and options to the people, they can choose. But yeah, sustainability is key. And I think those numbers also really underpin that.
Were there any other findings in terms of consumer preferences?
Surprisingly, what we saw was consumers have a very specific way of wanting to return a product in certain countries. For instance, Italy wanted a potential pickup solution, where in Germany they were more inclined to send in a solution. Here in the US, it was split across all potential options, whether it be pickup or drop-off. And each country and each consumer base has different tendencies.
And finally, what are the main trends in e-commerce today, and how do they impact returns management?
So because of digitalization, it's very easy to sell items anywhere, right, via digital tools. Of course, also the logistics methods are there, shipping items anywhere around the world. But of course, it also does have a huge impact for returns management. Secondly, for that, via marketplaces are booming. Amazon, Zalando, eBay are heavily growing. Typically in those markets, we see 78% growth year over year. So that also means that brands can more easily sell their units in multiple marketplaces globally again. So that really will have a huge impact on returns management, because now you will be selling items everywhere as a retailer or a brand. Of course, you need to have those solutions also available in those different markets we just talked about. So that's having a huge impact, of course, on the returns management. And then, of course, we don't even talk about all those returns which will be coming back and which will need to be managed by those companies.
Yeah, I see the future being reverse logistics just as important as the forward logistics, the outbound. As a company that's selling globally, we see different pain points that are being addressed from the consumer or a logistical matter. As with COVID, there was a lot of supply chain issues, a lot of warehouse distribution problems, and with now having a backbone or a complete back-of-the-house reverse logistics solutions provider like ourselves, they can focus on marketing, selling, and outbound fulfillment, and rely heavily on a solution like us to be everything on the reverse logistics side of things.
Well, it's been a really interesting topic. Gentlemen, thank you so much indeed for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Goodbye.